coaching. And this is a topic that I didn't really know would be like a thing, because I guess it just came so natural for me to do this. I had no idea what I was doing until Brittany decided to give it a name and make an outline and make all this stuff and say, like, this is what you do when you're talking to people. So it's coaching. How many of you have been on a group coaching session with your leaders? Should be everybody. Hands not raised, you're in trouble, so I'm going to find you out. I'm kidding. But it is time for you guys to make sure you're doing this. If you're not coaching your people, you have to start. And if you are, we are always growing and evolving into better coaches. And if you haven't started doing this with your people, it's not scary. It's super simple.
So starting out, I mean, very shortly after we started, we were doing this, but we did, like you said, we didn't really call it coaching. So if that is like a hang up in your head, or like, I don't feel like a good coach, I don't feel like whatever, and you have this limiting thought, like, just erase that and stop even considering it coaching. I mean, it's what you're doing, lean into it, but it's simple. It started off for me just getting on the phone and talking and seeing how people are doing and whatever. I refined that into ways I can ask better questions. So I think it's important to dive into how to coach, how to increase that skill, right? But we're always working on skill sets. So that's all this is. It's a skill set you can learn. And for me, when I started, it was terrifying. I remember you guys had said to get on the phone more and start doing it regularly in terms of kind of like this coaching concept. And I was like, you want me to do what? Like, no. And I don't know if I did it right away, or I like played it off a little bit till he asked me again. I can't remember, but I just was terrified because I said this yesterday, but I thought I had to have all the answers. I'm like, this is the worst case scenario. What if I get asked a question and I'm just sitting here like a deer in the headlights and don't know the answer, and I can't fix their problem, right? I had the idea that I had to be able to fix their problem or have the perfect answer to whatever they're going through, which is what coaching is not, actually. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. So it was just getting started, and it was a skill set that happened as I fell and stumbled through it over time. So that is all that we're asking you to do, is to start and stumble through it and be intentional on refining it. If you love it right now, if you're doing great with it, keep refining it, keep building that skill set. That's what I'm still aiming to do, is build that skill set. So what is the root of coaching? Do you want to go into that?
Jamie likes to stick to the notes in order. And I'm already like, I'm down here, I'm up here. I'm going to try to stay. You're going to get me order. I'm going to try to stay in the order here. So coaching, you have to coach yourself first. If you're not coaching yourself and you're not problem solving in your own life, you're not going to be able to help someone else. And your job as a coach isn't to solve their problems, it's to help them solve their problems. So that takes the pressure off. I've never felt like I've got to get Jamie to fix this about herself. I bring light to something like, hey, maybe you should do this because it'd be awesome. It'd be good for your business. But that's on her. She's going to take that on, and she is going to decide she wants to work through something. It's never forcing and it's never pushing. So you need to get yourself unstuck or moving forward first. You need to problem solve in your own life first. So that takes being self-aware. That takes looking at yourself. Why am I feeling this way? Analyzing the things like, what's going on with me? You know, I feel like I would like to be up there speaking. I feel like I might like to train, but I feel scared. Like, why am I feeling that? What's holding me back from doing the things that I feel like I would love to do? And analyzing that for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's one step of it. And when we were talking about it, like, we were like, how do we do this for ourselves? And that was what Phallin was mentioning. And I was trying to reflect and think for myself on how I would I never thought of it that way, right? So if you haven't thought of it that way, that's totally fine. I haven't thought about like how I coach myself in those words, but when I'm thinking and reflecting on this, sometimes it's getting to the root, but a lot of times for me, it's not sitting in it and analyzing it to death and getting at the, sometimes for me, it's, okay, yeah, I had this fear popped up. That's interesting. That just kind of like freaked me out a second, or yeah, this happened, but I'm not going to focus on it. I'm going to keep going forward anyway. I'm not going to sit here and think about my insecurities. I'm going to keep moving forward anyway, because it's still there. My insecurities are still there. My doubts, fears, 100%. but I don't sit and dwell on it. So for me, if I did that, it would paralyze me 100%. So, and I don't feel the need to necessarily get to the root of some of those things. There might be a time and place for certain things if it's holding me back. Otherwise, if I can just not focus on it and move forward in spite of it, that is how I lead myself through some of those things.
Yeah, I think that's why talking about things are important too. Or if either of us or any of us trainers say something and you have a question about it, come to us and talk about it, because yeah, I don't want you guys sitting here analyzing for weeks and months on end. Why am I afraid to talk to this person on my chicken list? Why? It paralyzes you. Just go out, take the action. I don't care why you're nervous before you speak. That's never going to go away. Just get up there and speak. So that's not what I mean. Don't be doing that. So what coaching is not, it's not having all of the answers. We do not have all of the answers. And a lot of times I would ask a lot of questions, not because I knew that's what coaching was, or that's what John Maxwell teaches, or anybody who teaches on coaching, but I just was curious and I didn't have the answer. So I asked questions. Like, I don't know why the heck you're not showing up to events. Like, tell me why. Like, I have no idea. So tell me. And then as I was asking people questions, I realized they were solving it for themselves. And what I realized was people just wanted to talk it through. They need someone to guide them from point A to point B. And we can all do that just by being curious and caring about someone.
So it's not being the fix-it person, being the, having all the answers. I said that already. That's not what coaching is. It's often a thing that we can think that we have to do. It's not having a breakthrough and finding a solution in one conversation. It's not thinking, okay, here's my problem. I have to fix it in this coaching call and have that be behind us. It might come back and take multiple times. But what we're going to say later is you do have something to move forward with. So we'll talk about that later too. But it's not all necessarily in one session. It's not taking the weight of the outcome on your shoulders. You are not bearing that responsibility as a coach and as a leader and as a mentor. That is not the purpose. So if you're thinking, well, like, how do I just lay off that burden of being responsible for this person? That's not your responsibility, plain and simple. Their responsibility. You're just helping them. As a leader, what is your responsibility is to grow in the skill set, figure out how can I ask better questions, or how can I improve myself and grow myself as a leader. Am I doing coaching calls with people? Because you learn from yourself, but you learn as you coach other people, and I bring it from one coaching call to another sometimes. It's amazing how the same thing that comes up on one day in 3 coaching calls. And it could be just what I'm processing through and applying to people in the same, different or slightly same scenarios there.
And that's how we would figure out what to train on for team calls, for making videos for our YouTube channels, what other people needed to hear, because so many times we're like, this is coming up on coaching all day today. The same things keep coming up. You need to make a video on that. That's how you can empower your people too. Like, you need to make a video on that. What you just said, as you process through that, go make a video, go train someone on that. You just overcame something, go train someone on it. Or you're in the middle of something, go train them on it. So what is the goal of coaching and why do we coach? To identify problems. We are looking for any areas of weakness that people can improve on. Yes, we want to call out people's strengths, but with coaching, you're looking for what they're not seeing. You're looking in all of the cracks, like, because your goal is to help them move forward. So a lot of times people are like, I don't know what I'm missing. I don't know. So that's your job. Every single coaching call, even if there's not a problem, a leader is going to see things before it happens. Like, she is going to be afraid. She is going to think she's not a leader. She's going to be afraid to do those leadership things. She's going to be afraid to do team calls or coaching or whatever. So let me help develop her before there's even a need. Like, as she's silver and as she's moving forward, I'm talking about someone who wants to grow into diamond, not like, I just want my products paid for. You're going to look for areas that they can grow too, but it's a little different.
So that's just having wisdom and discernment. So when you look at someone and you think, okay, they're doing great, like, you just have to take the extra time to just think a little deeper. They're doing great, good. Call out those strengths, right? Use that to cast vision, to help lead them into what they could do. But then you have to take the extra time to dig a little deeper for what else could they improve on. Everyone is always having areas to work on, whether that's skill set, maybe some mindset stuff, but more than likely it's going to be a skill set at that point that you're thinking of what could they improve of, what area, or preventatively, what's going great, but they, there's tons of joins coming in and they're growing, like everything is great, but how are they onboarding people? Are they doing all the things for onboarding and saying the things in terms of giving it time and consistency, getting them in team pages, like all these little nitty gritty things that right now don't really matter, but you know what, maybe in a month or two, subs might be being turned off, or, like you're preventing things to make sure things are being duplicated well when things are going great, right? So you're looking for those things, look for the things that they can improve in their skill set instead of just cheerleading them on.
You're not going to sit there and say, now, how can we improve? I know joins are great, but how can we improve and make them feel like joins aren't going great? You want them to still think it's going great, it's exciting, but in your head, you're like, okay, what's the next step? What do we need to make sure they're doing to keep these people? They got these people, they got the joins, but how do we keep the joins? How do we develop these people? Which of these new joins are going to be potential leaders? So always moving them a little bit forward, but letting them stay happy and excited. It's kind of like you don't want them to realize what you're doing with them. Like they shouldn't really feel like you're developing them or looking for problems or pointing out problems. It just needs to happen and move forward naturally.
So another goal of coaching is you're going to overcome problems by taking action. It might not be, or more than likely won't be in the same conversation where you completely overcome something, but this is where in a conversation, whatever you're going through for a coaching call, at the end of the call, there's at least some kind of action, some kind of step forward, some kind of empowerment for them to do something. So making sure you are taking action through those things. You're identifying the problems and overcoming them through that action. So even if it's digging deep and there's mindset issues and everything, and it's like this ongoing thing that's not going to be solved immediately, that's okay. But what can they do now? And it's taking the imperfect, you said that, it's taking the imperfect action, it doesn't mean they're going to be perfect at everything. It doesn't mean that you have the answer that's going to fix it. What's one step forward?
Yeah. And that is how I would tag people in videos. So people ask, like, what are your systems? Like, what is the order you tag and everything? There's not really an order once you get past silver, maybe gold, but there's not really an order. Like this is the process that I use, or all of the system for a lot of things. So when we're coaching, it's like, here's a video. I tagged you every coaching call, I'll be like, I tagged you in a video, or I'm going to make a video on that tonight. Because I don't want to repeat myself all day. If I can direct them to a video to learn, that's third-party validation. And that's one less thing that I have to do. That way, when we do talk, we can talk about their feelings and their heart, or, deeper things, deeper issues that a video, it can't be duplicated in a video. So you want to always be thinking about what will duplicate, and then that'll bump it up in the team page. Other people will see it. So the thought is other people are struggling with the same thing, I'm sure. So if I tag them, other people are going to see that.
So in coaching, what is beneficial is to help identify what that next step is, which might be a skill set, but then, like Phallin said, tagging them in something. So you're not taking the whole training to tell them how to exactly do it, how to do a skill set that was mentioned yesterday, right? You're not training them exactly on that skill set. We have resources for that, but you are being discerning on, okay, what's one step? And then asking them, do you think that it sounds like a good idea? Do you think you can do that? So getting their buy-in, not just telling them what to do. If you tell them what to do without getting their buy-in and their permission, and they're, like that's something that they could do, then you're going to be more likely to come back next week and they haven't done it, right? And maybe it might look like asking them, what do you think you could do to take that next step, to work on this area? You don't have to always give the things first. Ask them first, see what they come up with, and then you can always add on to it if you have another thought in mind. There's a difference, Phallin mentioned this yesterday, in terms of normalizing what someone is going through when someone is struggling, like being able to connect to them and normalize, like, hey, it isn't just you, right? Other people are going through this, right? Or I've been here. It helps them so they don't think like, oh, like I'm the only problem. Maybe this isn't cut out for me, right? You have to meet them where they're at and normalize it. But there is a difference between normalizing and enabling them. So if you normalize it and then you don't have that next step right there in terms of action, in terms of we're going to work through this, and here's one step that we can do to do that, then you're just enabling them. Then you're just sitting with them and being a friend and being empathetic and loving on them and like, oh yeah, this sucks, like you're not the only one. You have to have that next step so you're not just enabling them.
Yeah, they come to you like, I can't work. My husband he's just so clingy and I need to be able to work. I understand, girl. My husband was the same way. It's the feel, felt, found, right? We all are familiar with that. I understand. I felt the same way. But what worked for us was, oh, that's not going to work. That's not going to work for me. Okay. Well, what Christina did was, here's a video from this person, like point them and direct them, give them some sort of direction, and then expect them to come back the next week when you say, hey, how did it go? Was hubby okay with you being on book club? Nope. He was still so irritated. Well, what did you do? So you ask them a question. What happened? What did you try to change? And then they tell you, and then you offer feedback and they come back and say, no, that wasn't it. And then you offer another solution. And sometimes you might have to think about it. They might have to think about it. I like to get people to write things down. All right, write me a list, because this makes it seem more doable. If your husband's like, you're always on work trips. I can't work on my job because you're always gone. Okay, how often am I really gone on a work trip? Write that down. Like, let's put it down. Let's really see how much time is being spent, because our brains will blow things way out of proportion. So if you can write it down, then everybody can see, oh, I'm only gone 5 days a year or whatever it is. Like, this is more doable. Just figure out how to find a solution as quick as possible. And it's definitely going to be a process. It has to always end in a solution though.
Mm-hmm. So it's not our job to make someone successful, but it is your job to give them direction with action. And then I'm going to back up one second. One thing I wanted to say, because Phallin moves me forward, is the goal, the root of coaching is belief in vision. So this all flows together with what we've recently talked about and stuff, which is really good. But at the root of coaching, if you have that vision, you have that belief, then you're going to find ways to help people through problems, right? You're going to have a more confident time with coaching because you know everything is figure outable. You know that there is a solution. You might not know what it is. That's okay. You don't have to, but you know that there's going to be one. You know that you guys are going to figure it out and you're going to work through it. So you have that mindset that it is going to get worked out, and you're not going to just sit in with their roadblocks and say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's hard. I don't know how to help you there. Don't tell them that. You might think that, but don't tell them that.
Don't be lazy in your coaching. You're not just here to, oh, I'm sorry, girl, let me give you a hug. That we're in a business here. Help them through it. And maybe I'm crazy. I know some people don't like unsolicited advice, but I love it. Like if I'm saying I got a problem, come help me fix it. Don't just leave me in my problem. Tell me how I can get out of here. I don't want to stay here. So, so who do you coach and when? Who are you going to spend time coaching? When do you pull back? When do you back off? Where do you divide your time?
That question comes up a lot. I think we all think that a lot, right? It's
right.
Like and it's not black and white. We're going to dive into it, but no matter what we even dive into here, it's not black and white. It just takes wisdom and discernment and going back and forth and figuring it out for one.
Yeah, that's what your upline's here for too. Yeah, that's good. So someone new, someone who is new, we always give them a chance. We're going to want to talk to them. We're going to start them out as if they're a open book, nothing written in it yet. How can I help this person? Let's start with coaching. Mm-hmm. So right off the bat, everyone gets that. Everyone gets open access to you. Someone who's making you a paycheck, someone who is growing and taking action. There's great aspects of this business that have nothing to do with a paycheck, but you guys are here for a paycheck. And if you view it that way, that's going to be really easy to know who to spend your time with. If you're like, I'm so busy, I have all these people, I don't have enough time for my family, you're doing this probably wrong, or you're in momentum. There's a difference there. But you have to be wise with who gets your time, because you will not have time for everybody. You won't. And that is the sad truth of life. There's not enough time in the day. So you need to work with someone who's growing and taking action. If I'm coaching Jamie and I'm like, hey girl, you really got to start showing up at events. You need to be there. Don't hide in your room eating beef jerky. You got to come out, socialize, and just be with everybody.
There's no beef jerky under here.
And you got to do these things. And so, yeah, I don't really want to do that. Okay, well, why? Let's talk about this. Next event happens. She's still not doing the things. She's still not growing in her business because she's not there for her people. No one feels valued. No one feels loved. She's just not doing the things. So we talk through it again. Girl, what happened? Thought you wanted to work on this. Thought you wanted to be there for your people and love on your people and do the things a leader would do. Still doesn't do it. I'm going to leave her. I'm going to leave her with some solutions that she needs to work on. So there's things, action steps she can take, but she is not taking the action steps. I'm going to leave her there. You're going to work on that. I got some books for you. I'm not going to say I'm leaving you there. I'm not going to tell her that. If she calls me crying that her dog ran away, I'm still going to answer the phone, but I'm not going to keep bothering her with it. That's when people feel pushed and you feel like you're dragging and your downline gets pissed at you because you're naggy. Leave her. This is her issue. She's going to work on this. She's going to read some books and she's going to grow. And I'm going to go work with someone else. If someone is not willing to send cold messages, post on Facebook, and you've told them a couple times and you've worked through it once or twice and they still don't want to do it, move on. You have got to move on. I was losing golds left and right while all my other people were coming up. I make the paycheck that I make because I work with the people who want this. You can't help everybody. I said this yesterday. And so if you're not helping the people who want to help themselves, you're wasting your time. And that's not going to benefit anybody.
So a couple of things that are important there. You have to be able to ask some of those questions. And for some of you, that's going to be really hard. For some of you, it's hard to, it feels like confrontation. It feels like you're calling them out, but you can say it in loving ways, like how Phallin just said it. And it doesn't sound mean or bad or like you're their boss. It's like, hey, we talked about this. I know you want to grow so badly. You said you thought you could do these couple things. You know, you're still not really doing them. Help me understand what's going on. What's holding you back? Like, just ask some questions. If they're ghosting you, if they're still not doing it, that's when you can it's kind of like having the mindset of, I gave them an action step. They're not doing it. So you can't give them another action step until they've done that. If it's like a important thing, right? So here okay, it's still recording. Okay. So what was I talking about? So you can't move them on to another skill set until they're willing to do that one, right? So you don't have to think, okay, I'm ditching them, I'm going to work with other people. Like Phallin said, you just kind of have that mindset, well, they're there. And if you're doing weekly coaching calls, stop doing them with them. If you keep trying to get on the phone with them every single week and they're not following through on anything, then you can just tell them, hey, like maybe even connect with them before you get on the phone. You can message them, send them a text. Like, hey, we talked about these couple things as a goal for this week. How did that go? Did you get to them? Oh, no, I didn't. I meant to. Okay, let's postpone our coaching call. And then we'll hop on next week when you've gotten to some of these things. Yeah. You can do that. And it's not mean. It puts them to action. And it probably will help hold them accountable a little bit more. Like, oh, like she's not going to just keep getting on to talk about willy-nilly stuff. Like, I need to actually take this seriously, right? Because that's guarding your time and it's helping them. So if you have a hard time thinking, how can I say some of these hard things? You need to take it off of yourself and you need to put it on how I can best help them. And that's how I can do that as a 9, someone who worries about what people think, like all the things. Like I can say those things because I know it's not about me, it's how I can best help them.
Saying the hard things, the training is different than coaching. I can say whatever I want up here, but when I'm coaching someone, I'm not saying things that I need to say. I'm saying things that they need to hear. So I might need to say, you're lazy. You have your priorities all out of whack. You're not doing this, 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 and this. That's not what they need to hear. They need to hear it in love, not you suck, but you suck. Not saying that at all, but helping them. Saying that to someone is not going to benefit them. What you're going to say to them is how they can move forward. Say it in a way that creates progress. And we went, when we were gold, I think, to Sonia Dudley's How to Coach. I was like, everybody's going, the whole team, we're all going to Tennessee. We're going to get this training. I think we were gold. I was gold, maybe y'all were silver. We were
I
pretty
just went to
young.
my first event, and I remember you guys said, okay, you have to go this, and I'm like my husband's like, what? You just went to something? Like, I just started, and I'm thinking, I can't afford to do that. I can't, like, I was just gone, all the things, but I was like, okay, they're telling me I have to, I'm going.
It was just not a corporate thing, just a little Sonia Dudley training.
Yeah.
And she talked about coaching. And the best thing she said was, I feel like I want this more for you than you want it for yourself. Let me know when you are ready. Because it's about them. They may never cut. People get afraid, like, oh my gosh, I might lose someone. You might, because you never had them in the first place. So if you have poured belief into them, you've given them vision, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person and the right thing to the wrong person, okay? My sponsor wasn't teaching me all this stuff, and I still made it straight to the top. Doesn't matter. It's them. It's the person. So don't put so much stress on yourself. Your job is to cast vision, but if they don't get it, it's not because you suck at casting vision. You might have some things to learn, but I'm pretty sure I definitely sucked at a lot of things when I started because I had no idea what I was doing, but I still grew because I kept doing the things.
And that's important to, when you're not holding yourself accountable for the outcome. It doesn't matter if your skill set here is a 2 and someone else's is a 10. It doesn't mean, like, they still can figure things out and have the resources to be successful in this. You're just an added bonus to coach them well, right? They're diamonds who've gotten to the top without any sponsors close to them working. So let yourself go of that. They have the resources. You start where you're at and develop that as you go. So that's really important. But also, when you said that, Phallin, too, I wanted to mention, you need to check yourself on what you have done before you let someone go in your mind. So if they're not doing something, you started to say this too, like, what have you done? What can I do anything more, in terms of helping them? So did you tell them what is holding them back? If you keep skirting around, like, oh, you should do this or do that, and you're skirting around some of the things because you don't want to be that direct. If you haven't told them what's holding them back, how do you, like, you're missing, that's something you need to do before you just like throw in the towel on someone. Did you ask them why they're not following through? Like, what are all the things? Did you cast the vision? Did you have strong enough belief? That's where your vision comes in. Have you, like, did you gauge what they want? What do they want out of it? If you're expecting everyday work from someone that is uncomfortable and their goal is to maybe make a couple $100 or get the Nikes, if it's not a big enough, maybe that's a big enough thing to make them do some things uncomfortable, but for some people it won't be. So their vision might need to be bigger to work through the hard things. So you have to give them that vision, gauge where they're at, and then work with them accordingly. You're going to help someone push through harder things if they have a bigger vision, because then you'll be like, listen, we talked about this. I know your vision is this. This is going to be hard. That's okay. This is normal. You're going to work through it. But if you haven't even gone there and gauged their interest, you can't power them through in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Also, it depends how much you have invested in the person too, how long you stay there trying to help them. Kind of like a boyfriend. If they do something stupid, you're like, goodbye. If it's your husband, it's gonna be a little more tolerant because you have something invested there. You're not just gonna kick them to the wayside. Like, you're gonna work through it. So, I mean, I have Jules that are struggling with stuff. I'm struggling with stuff. We all are still learning and growing. But my Jules and people who are higher up in rank and you have stuff invested. So if you're Ruby, you're gonna have less tolerance for stuff your silvers are doing. You're gonna pour more into your senior golds and be a little, I don't know how to say that, like, be there for them more, not tolerant of their excuses, but maybe it's a deeper issue. Like, when someone's getting started, if they don't want to send messages, they don't want to post, there's not much you can do with them other than cast vision. But if there's a Ruby that's struggling, it's probably something going on in their heart. And you have to get to their heart. And if you got a Jewel struggling, you definitely gonna get to some heart issues because they've done the things. Yeah. They're willing to show up. They're willing to do the hard things. So what is really going on? So if you got someone stuck and they're willing to do the basics, IPA, reach up, follow up, recruiting, they've ranked up, they've been excited, then dig in. that's when you really want to coach. People who are coaching, I don't even start coaching people till they're sober. Like if you're not even willing to make your first Facebook post, stop trying to get them on book club. You need to give them the vision. They're not even willing to take action on their own. They don't have vision. So the only people who get coaching are people who are willing to take action. The other ones, vision. That's really important. So I would write that down.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, so coaching basics. Really, when you are coaching people and going through things, you're gonna have a lot of the same things come up over and over again. Like it all comes down to some root stuff. It's either gonna be mindset or skill set. And then among those things, your mindset, it's probably gonna be something amongst a fear or a belief issue or a vision issue. With skill set, it's probably gonna connect to the 4 pillars. You got retention, recruiting, leadership, duplication. So it's gonna fall under something. And your job is just to figure out, okay, is this something I gotta just help them with identifying a skill set to help them move forward? Or is the reason they're not moving forward because, you know, the skill set, it's either they don't know how to do something or, oh yes. So the mindset, fear, belief, and vision. They have a mindset thing going on, or skill set. It's the 4 pillars. So retention, recruiting, leadership, and duplication. Yep. So if someone is presenting a problem, I'm thinking, okay, are they not doing, they have this skill set or this action they need to do. Are they not doing it because they don't know how? And I need to like help them figure that out. Like, do we need to dive into, and I'll ask questions to figure that out. Like, okay, what's holding them back? Do you know how to do this? Whatever. Or are they not doing it because they have a root of a mind issue, a mindset issue, right? Because they're fearful of it. They're worried about other people think, like whatever that is. So you're just going in one route or another and then ending in action, either way. So depending on how you to dive into that. And then do you want to go into other basic areas? Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you can keep going.
So basic areas as you coach that you should be proactively coaching on and analyzing is kind of how their business is going in terms of personal stuff. So their IPA, their office, that would fall under office hours. You know, how many hours a day are they working? If something is going wrong with a skill set, a lot of times I can connect that back to, okay, well, for example, one was, well, I'm working 4 hours a day. Okay, well, they should be able to get some of these basic things down to their IPA in 4 hours a day, right? So how does that time look? Walk me through what you're doing in that. Or if you're doing, you know, an hour a day, what are you doing in that hour in a day? Walk me through that. How long does it take you to do your reach outs, to do new contacts, to do follow-ups, whatever. Sometimes they might need help. They're spending way too much time on one thing or on another. Maybe they're wasting time doing stuff. If they're spending too much time on something, why is that? We need to get to like, okay, let's get some skill set and break down why you're focusing or, you know, why you're kind of spinning your wheels on something. Maybe that comes back to a mindset thing. So it's just asking more questions. So your IPA, office hours fall under that. Tracking. So if you don't know what's holding them back and they seem to be doing all the things, they're telling you you're doing all the things, just ask them to write it down so you can see it or show you screenshots. Okay, track for a week what you're doing. Track for a month what you're doing. See how sometimes we're blind to our own inconsistencies. And it's not that you think that they're lying to you. I mean, some of them might be exaggerating one way or another, but if, you know, we lie to ourselves for one sometimes. So there's a good reason to think that they don't realize what they are doing or not doing on a consistent basis. So if you track it, their eyes are going to be open. Oh yeah, I did really good here, but oh, I thought I was being consistent, but I missed a lot of days this month. And then guess what? If that's happening 3 months in a row, maybe that's why you're not growing how you think you should be growing.
The most important thing they can do is write it down and show you and talk about that, because if someone's like, yeah, I'm working 4 hours a day and I'm doing all the things, but they're still at that rank a year later, something is wrong. And someone, if they're not having success, they're going to be tempted to quit. Not that they're going to quit, but they're going to be frustrated. And once they get to that frustrated part, it's going to be hard to pull them out of it because we always want to have a positive moving forward mindset. But the less success they have, the more and more they sink down, and it's going to be hard to pull them out. So forward thinking leader, I was always thinking, if she does not get this retention right, they're all going to quit. Then she's going to quit. Then I'm going to have to go find someone else to work with. So how can we prevent the quitting? That is by getting them results. So the quicker you get someone results, the better.
And it's not to get anyone in trouble, like, oh, you're not doing this, shame on you. That's not why. You're doing it because like, this is empowering. Oh my goodness, like I found a gap. That means I have something I can work on that makes sense for maybe why I wasn't growing how I wanted to grow. And here's what I can do to help move forward instead of keep doing what you're doing. It's just the process. Part of that is true. It is a process. Part of it is true. You are going to have people come and go. It does take time and consistency. It does take a few months of consistency to reap some of those benefits sometimes, right? So part of that is true. But as a leader, you're trying to find some of those things, find those gaps so that they are empowered to do something to help you move forward. Other basic areas as you coach are personal growth and leadership. Their leadership, are they creating leaders? Are their leaders creating leaders? We're not going to go into all that, but those are things to look at as you're coaching. If someone is also feeling like they're not moving how they should be moving, do they have not only new silvers, but new business builders, new leaders? Do their leaders have leaders?
So the personal growth thing. Your leaders should be coming to you, taking pictures of what they're reading and highlighting in their books. They should be excited because that means they're learning. If you're just reading book club and books and they're just showing up and they're there, but you might need to work on your communication. Maybe they don't feel like they can send pictures to you. So you initiate. Oh my gosh, did you see? This was so good. This really spoke to me. Reading isn't going to do anything unless they're writing, highlighting, because they're going to take action. Yes, this inspired me. Let me take action. A lot of times people will be inspired too, but they don't do anything with it. So you need to make sure that they're actually reading, growing, and then passing that information on to their team. So that's personal growth. It's not just, are you reading the books? Yes. No, there's more.
What are you taking action from after you read the books? How are you teaching that to someone else? Life? How is it changing what you're doing? That's a good thing. So if someone sends you, you know, like, I'm reading this, this is so inspiring. That's awesome. I love that. How are you, like, what are you gonna do about that? What's a way that you can implement that? What's a way you can teach that? How is that changing, like, how you're moving forward? Like, you could ask follow-up questions to kind of get them more intentional with something that is inspiring. You never want to sit here and I should do it. So if we're up here saying you should be doing events and you have a slight idea of that'd be fun. We should get together, the local team. But it stops at we are. Let's just commit to it. I don't know how I'm going to make it happen. Don't know who's going to watch the kids, but I'm committing to doing this. I'm committed to making this happen. So when you're in a group with your leaders and you're the top leader there, you be the one to initiate and to do those things. And soon your leaders will start coming to you. Hey, let's do this. Okay, let me put that down. Let's make it happen. So some examples, just to give a couple of examples. If someone is feeling overwhelmed, like, you're not just gonna encourage them, be like, it's okay, you know, whatever. You're going to ask yourself, like, okay, where is this stemming from? Which area? Which area is some of the basics that we mentioned, you know, mindset, skill set, the basic areas you coach. Where is this stemming from that they're feeling overwhelmed? If they feel like they can't get anything done, look at their systems. You know, so you can figure out how they can get things done and you can help them through that. What are they efficient in? What are they not efficient in? What do you need to give them tools? And that's where it's like leading yourself and learning yourself, or helping and knowing how tools that's helped, you know, Phallin or Christina or whoever, you know, in here in terms of, oh, it's helped them. Maybe you should try it that way. So you get to the root, give them the tools, point them in the direction to solve the problem themselves. You're going to have the tools to give them if you're coaching yourself. If you feel like you don't know how to help people or work people through a problem, you're probably letting yourself stay in that problem, or you're just not opening your mouth. You don't believe you have value to add, so you don't say anything. You just, okay, kind of in your mind, you're saying, I don't know how to help you. Figure out how to help them. And if you're helping yourself, there ought to be
books you've read. I'll ask later, how did you know how to say that to someone? I read that in a book. Books are duplicatable. You can say, read this book. It changed my life. That is so easy. That's one I tell my husband all the time. That's why I like books, not just Googling articles. Here's a book. I can hand it to someone and say, this is what's going to help you.
So a couple tips when you're coaching, write things down. So as you're coaching someone, write down the things that you guys are talking about, because the next week or whenever you connect with them again, you can look back on some of those things and remind yourself of maybe what to ask them about. You should always be kind of paying attention to those things and being intentional in that, so you can continue to help them work through things, because it is gonna, keep coming. It's not a one-time process, right? And then the second thing is schedule reoccurring calls. Make sure your people are doing that. Now, this is specifically for people who may not be getting on the phone enough. If you're on the phone talking all the time, Phallin never scheduled her calls. It was a little bit different. But if you are not intentionally coaching someone on an at least weekly basis for someone who wants to run, then that might be something important to schedule. And for me, I find it most beneficial not to say, hey, if you want to hop on a call, tell me what time works for you this week or this month or whatever. For me, it's personally been more beneficial to schedule the reoccurring calls. So I'm not hunting people down. Life isn't getting busy. They know what to expect. I know what to expect. And we are connecting on a regular basis to be intentional about their business.
So the goal is to get on the phone. Doesn't matter how you do it.
Right.
Jamie's scheduling. I don't, because it's happening. But if that's not happening, you need to make sure you are getting them on there. And then what do you need to think about when you're doing the coaching? As a coach, what are you thinking if someone's unloading and they're asking questions and all of these things? Don't assume you know the answer. So many times you can jump right in like, got the answer. Let me solve your problem for you. You kind of have to help them decide that on their own. So it's your job to get them to decide that on their own. Sounds complicated. It's not once you get used to doing it. So don't assume you have to read between the lines, because the first step, we have a couple steps here broke down. So the very first step is listen.
What really hurts though, so if you have a thought in mind, because you're like, oh, I know the solution, because you might know, like, oh, they're telling me this, I know what they're doing wrong, or I know what they need to work on. If you have some of those thoughts, like, just save it for later or write it down if you don't want to forget it. That's fine. Write down some notes of what you want to get to on that coaching call while they are talking, because you want to have them do more talking. And you need to allow that time to be able to then ask the questions, and maybe I'll actually wait on that part. But anyway, I'll wait on that because that's coming with what you're saying, but just write it down so you can come back to that later.
Yeah, you have to listen. That's the most important thing you can do, is listen to what they are saying. Not listen to their words, but what is she saying? And that can be hard to do if you're not actually paying attention. That's why Brittany Howard would say she'd be trying to fold laundry and coach, but she'd end up stopping because she's listening. She's trying to figure this out, not just listening to listen. Some people talk like that and they just need a listener, but most people, you don't want to just sit there listening. So what are they not saying? Read between the lines. Why they're not aware of something. So why are they saying it? Do they not realize it's the root issue? You have to have rock solid belief that this won't hold them back, whatever the problem is. They don't have that belief yet. They feel like this is the end of the world. My team isn't growing. My points are going down. You have to not be like, oh my gosh, it's another leader with points going down. You need to be excited, moving forward, rock solid belief where they're going. You will help them out of it because they probably don't feel like they can get unstuck or move forward.
So I'm thinking in my head, if someone's presenting a problem, okay, what could be the reason why they're feeling this way? Or what could be the reason why they're not doing this action? And I'm not thinking it to like come up with the answer necessarily myself, but I'm thinking it because I'm then going to be asking them that probably, right? Or brainstorming ideas of different routes that could go. So all you have to do is be curious, ask questions and ask more questions. And that's something that I didn't coach that way when I started. I started by just, like figuring it out or telling them like probably more what to do next. Like that's how I started. But It's just a skill set that as you do it and as you ask more questions, you can think, oh, okay, well, this is a good way to ask that. That got this out of someone. So you kind of learn how you've asked questions on one call that you can bring into the next ones. And as you move forward, that worked well in helping someone get through a difficult time. So why is this a hurdle for why they're not getting into action? Or why is this a hurdle for why they're not growing? It comes back to like, why aren't they moving forward? Why aren't they taking action? Go down. What you got?
I'm moving forward, so I'm letting you make sure you say everything you want to say.
We did that. Well, you can move forward, I guess. Go for it. Yep.
Okay, so you're asking questions, learn to read their body language, their tone of voice. This is how you, Caleb, I could not stand him when I first talked to that man. He pissed me off daily. I told you, I'm like, I hate this guy. He is a jerk. He told me, oh, you doing one of those MLM things? I'm like, he doesn't know who I am. I was so irritated. You're feeding their kids that homemade bread. Don't do that to them. He was joking. I had no idea. So I didn't know who he was. I didn't know that his mom made homemade bread and that he actually, I had no clue.
He was being sarcastic.
I did not realize he's very sarcastic. I might have got that out of him because you don't do that no more. Or
I remember you getting on the phone with me and telling me that. I'm like,
You
he's
did.
just joking. Like, it's okay. You don't have to be mad at him. Like, my husband's very sarcastic. It's okay.
This guy's the biggest jerk I know. So when you're on the phone with these people and you're like, wow, she's abrasive, or she just cries a lot. Like, get to know your people and know who they are and read what they're saying. It just cracks me up. I'm like, you don't really know that person, you know, like some people are intimidated. My brother, he's dating someone and he's very vocal. He's a lot like me. He'll get really mad and like the house is about to get burnt down, but he's just as mad as the person who's sitting there quietly. It's not any extra mad. So know your people. Don't be intimidated by them. We're all people. We all have hearts. There's really nothing that's intimidating. Well, I don't know why people are scared of people. It's not like they're going to come through the phone and choke you. It's okay. So say these things, ask questions. Don't sit there. Sometimes Courtney, she'll be like, why is this person doing this? I'm like, ask her. Just ask her. Just say it. You know, and that is so helpful. You don't have to wonder, you guys. Just communicate with your people. Instead of wondering, I'll have people come back to me after a coaching call and they have this list of questions. I'm like, why didn't you ask her? I don't know. That's not okay. Figure out why you're not asking questions and then go and ask those questions.
So how you talk and coach one person might be very different than another.
Very.
You might not be able to say things one way to one person, but you can to another. That's really important. You have to be discerning and flexible and know your people to how you can connect with them. Because it's not about you and what you need to do to fix something. It's about them and how you can help them through moving forward in their business, in their leadership and things like that.
That's where you scare people away. And once you, so if I were to say to Jamie, that is the dumbest thing you have ever done. She's probably going to cry. She would be like, Phallin hates me. Why did she say that? She thinks I'm dumb. But if I were to go say that to Tiffany Wilson, she'd be like, shut the heck up. Like, she doesn't care. That they're different. So if you go and scare someone off and then you become timid and then you don't want to say bolder things to other people because of how one person acted, that was just that one person. Don't lump, not one of my leaders are the same. So don't lump them all together. And it's going to take some stumbling around and figuring it out. We would have fights and crying and people leaving the chat in my Jewel chat, probably because I didn't know how to talk to some yellows. Jamie probably just cried. The other one's like this. Whatever she is. I'm like, hide me now. Yeah, Jamie, I'm hiding now. I'm not hiding. I'm going in there. So you have to learn. We could tell you so many stories. You'd be like, ooh, these diamonds. But that's okay if your team looks like that. I think communication is important, even if it's ugly.
Yeah. Oh, and that's where you grow in emotional maturity and all that kind of stuff. That's where it relates to that training. You learn how to communicate. You know how to work through your own things, your own insecurities. You know how to communicate better with people and get the agenda out of the way or whatever. You know, you connect with people better. So All right, I think we can skip all that because we talked about that really good.
Mhm.
So boundaries, how, this is important. And we're gonna kind of wrap up with this because I know we're out of time, but give us a few extra minutes here. So how do you have, it's important to have boundaries as you coach people, boundaries as a leader, because there's a difference between being a leader and coaching someone and being their counselor. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Because people struggle with things, they struggle with life, and that is normal for that to come into your coaching because you are getting to the root of some stuff. You are getting to some mindset things. You are getting to hard things. There might be tears. There might be, you know, like all the hard things, and that's important. It's really important to get to that, but you have to have the boundary of when you are able to identify it and help them move forward, or if it's a thing that needs to dig deeper and it's a rooted thing that goes into like a lot of other stuff, that's when they might need to talk to someone else. That's when you have to have that boundary a little bit to how far can you help them? Because you're not a counselor, you're not, you know, in that. And there's a difference between also coaching and being their friend. You might need to switch gears, right? Why don't you talk about that? You have a lot of good stuff on it.
I think it's really important that you, for one, if your girls start coming to you with marriage problems or problems with adult kids or whatever, you don't want to be the one to break up, like leave your personal feelings aside. You know, like he might be a terrible man, teaching or treating her terribly, but that's not, do not become the counselor because it's going to turn on you. They're going to end up having a problem with you, and that is bad for your business. You really have to think like, okay, there a lot of mindset things, like Jamie said, will come back to fear. In a place of fear or any really deep emotion like that can get pretty deep, and it's easy to keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper, and there's a place for that for some things, but when you're digging so deep, it becomes their crutch. They'll grab onto it like, this is why I can't do this, and this. Do it anyway. Okay. I don't know why I'm so afraid of puking, but it's paralyzing. I do it anyway. Being here, I'm like, someone's about to barf, the whole house gonna get norovirus. It's just like, nope, moving on. We're not gonna go there. If it happens, it happens.
The t-shirt creators are gonna drop off the t-shirts and be a serial killer and kill us all. True facts.
There's a reason.
She delivered it to the other house, but they killed you guys first.
Because I knew nobody was gonna be there. I don't need them like, oh, there's a room full of women in here. Then I don't know why she didn't send it. I figured it was because she was trying to get my address where I'm staying. So anyways, don't let that paralyze you. Don't let that stuff keep you at home. Their childhood problems. Fear can go deep into all of that, or shame, or whatever underlying issue. Don't keep going over it. Direct them to a counselor, direct them to a book. Hey girl, I know you're going through some stuff. How can I help you in your business right now? Let's do this. We're all going to have underlying issues. It doesn't have to stop you from being successful. And that's sometimes what coaching can turn into is, oh, I got this bad thing going on. No, you have a business. Let's treat it like a business. Let's work your business while you're working on that. It doesn't have to stop you from taking action or moving forward. They might need to take a day or two off, but don't let their issue stop their business. Do not, you yellows, do not sit there and be like, she can't work. Her husband's not supportive. Her kid's this or that, or her kids are always sick and now she's always sick. Learn how to work while you're sick. If you're always sick, we're going to have to work through that because you have a business.
It's not healthy for you or for them. If it's constantly digging to roots and it's getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's just not healthy for either of you, for that space, for what that space is for, right? So it's not that you can't get real. You need to get real. It's not that you're being harsh. It's just how can you best help them? And that's not your space to best help them in those moments. So you need to be able to not let those deep personal issues, like Phallin was saying, affecting how you move forward. So you identify them. Okay, how can we work forward in spite of this? Maybe they need to go talk to a counselor. Maybe they need to talk to their husband, you know, but you have to limit how much you are counseling them on certain things. And
because we care.
Right.
We care about our girls, and that can affect your business too. Everyone's problems coming to you. Brittany will ask me, how can you handle so many people's problems? Because I can compartmentalize them. Jamie, it's hard when they're sick, because I mean, I feel you. If someone's puking, I will be up all night praying for you because I feel bad. But I'm not going to let it affect my business. If Jamie's going through a hard time, Jamie, I'll pray for you. Like, I'm here if you need me. Call me whenever. Next, I'm moving on to help someone else. Not because I love Jamie, not because I don't love you people, but I got a business to run here. I can't love my kids and every single person on my team all at the same time. When work is done for the day, I'll come back. Jamie, how's it going? How are you and Bill doing? How are your kids doing? But it doesn't have to paralyze your brain so you can't work, you can't function because your team's having things go on.
Right. So when you compartmentalize that, you can show up at work even when you had a fight with your spouse in the morning, right? Like you can't just say, well, I have this hard thing happening, so I'm not going to show up at work. I think I said that yesterday. You're going to get fired in another position, right? You have to find ways to compartmentalize to still show up in the capacity that you can. And it might be hard at times. And it's not that you're ignoring it and never addressing it. It's not like you have to stuff down your feelings and just pretend like everything is fine. You might need to find another space where you need to work on that, right? That's still something that you have to work on, but you might need to compartmentalize and move forward in one area and work on that somewhere else.
Is that it?
Yeah, we're probably over time, aren't we? Yeah, I think that's about it. I have a couple other questions, but I think
Jamie always has more things, more notes. She's so prepared.
I'm
am
good.
not-
I'll stop it. How much are we over? Yeah, we're over. So, I think a big question that we get a lot real quick is how do you balance giving grace with hard truths? We kind of touched on that. So just work on that, I mean, if people, I guess my biggest advice with that, if you have the focus on them, it's not about you, you're going to naturally say it in a way that they're going to receive it. It'll be different for each person. And also, oh my word, I just lost my thought I really wanted to say. Do you have anything with that? I need to think.
I wish I did. I
It
don't.
was good. How do you balance?
We'll
grace
make
with
a
giving
video
hard-
on it
I
later.
know, I'll think about it later. Anyway, that just went, this is why I have to write some thoughts down. I didn't write that one down. I just knew I had it in my head. All right, that's all. So make it about them, say it anyway, work through those things and say the hard truths when you need to say them. But anyway, you guys start where you're at,
Break.
work on this skill set. Keep going.
Break.
And lunch. Will you stop this?